So my mic doesn't fall this time because that happened. All right, everybody, welcome to Season 5 of Bison Overtime. I am Grant Hubbard, host of said show, and that is Spectrum sports writer Ethan Eibach. Ethan, welcome to Bison Overtime.
Thanks for having me.
So this show is going to be all about NDSU athletics, and this is a collaboration between the Spectrum and BIN. Today's topic is the top 10 games in NDSU football history. We'll get to that in just a second, the highlights of all those games soon to come. It's an article idea that we've had for about 3 months, coming back to late December during winter break. He and I talked about it for a while, but we're excited to reveal our list, but first let's catch up on what else the football program has been up to recently. So 10th FCS National Championship over Montana State, 35-32. Another instant classic in a championship game. You were at that game.
Yep.
Just tell me about the environment of that game, what it was like.
Yeah, it was comparable to those games against like James Madison those years. It was loud. The pregame was, I think the game being at night itself helped the environment tremendously.
Yeah.
And Montana State, it was kind of their first time where they really thought they had a chance, so I think that helped the environment as well. And Bison fans were kind of underrated that night too. It was pretty loud when we were on defense, but yeah, it was a great night.
What I remember about just watching it on television was that it was one of the better ones that ESPN had done. They put a lot of attention into the details. Like the national anthem, they had close-ups of the band and the players. Like they followed Cam into the locker room. It was just a really ESPN did a great job, especially when Dave Fleming's on the call. Yeah. The San Francisco Giants announcer, he's fantastic. So that was great in its own right. But you're right. I think people coming into that game, people thought this is Montana State's year. They're undefeated. No one's hardly touched them all season long. They blew through their playoff competition. Yeah. They got this, right? Sean Fredericks, remember saying before the Southern Illinois game, he said, they're going to win it. They're the best team in the country, no dispute. But what I remember about leading up to that championship game is that people forget if the Bison don't lose in Vermilion that year, they're the number one seed, and it's not even a question.
Yeah, not a question. And Montana State's strength of schedule was not good all year.
Because it's the Big Sky.
Yeah, the Big Sky. Montana wasn't good this year, and they beat them.
Handily.
Yeah, handily. Idaho wasn't that great. It's the Valley. People underestimate the Missouri Valley.
For sure. I mean, I remember just the seeding in general going into this, because people on Twitter were going, oh, South Dakota's got to be in front of the Bison. South Dakota State's got to be in front of South Dakota. To all you commissioners and presidents out there, do not schedule Division II games if you're competing for a national championship. No. Okay? Don't do it. And also, don't have your opponent get the flu or whatever, whooping cough, and they can't play a game. So, because of that, South Dakota got bopped down to a 4 seed. Sorry, that's just the way it is. But again, championship game, incredible game to watch. Fourth quarter was a slugfest, back and forth shootout. The two best quarterbacks in the country going at it. Tommy missed on a few throws late. Cam was perfect throughout that entire game. He showed why he should have won the Peyton. I'm happy he didn't win the Peyton because he played ticked off in the game, but man, he was fantastic as well. Yeah,
and I think I heard Polasek told Cam right after he didn't get the award, he texted him just one word, and he said good.
Good, yep.
And I think that helped him in the end.
And then some, I think, in that game. Again, you don't see very much in FCS walk-off punts. No. You don't see that very often. So, 3-point game, Montana State onside kick, hadn't attempted one all season long. They had their huge punter, Brendan Hall, out there to punt, the punter to do the onside kick. Bounced into the arms of Bryce Lance. Luke Colcat picks up a personal foul on the play, which is, hindsight, a good thing because it pushes the Bison back behind midfield. They run 3 plays. They almost get the first down. They're 2 yards shy. And then, for some despicable reason, Brent Vegan says, let's put all 11 guys on the line of scrimmage. And Caden Steindorf, all he has to do is just pooch it over the line, and they win. I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have stuck Dowler back there and have him return it. But that's why we're sitting here and not on the sideline.
I think people don't really realize how good the Bison special teams was this year. You talk about Steindorf he was all right. They didn't punt that much, but talk about kick returns and punt returns. Jackson Williams was a stud all year. I mean, it wasn't a lot of sloppiness. It was clean all year.
And when John Gores didn't drop the ball, he was actually a pretty good punt returner in his own right. Before we get into our top 10 of the past, let's focus on the present, the current NDSU football roster. Again, No Cam, no Gray Zabel, no Mason Miller. They lose some pieces, but this is still a really loaded team, in my opinion.
It's the quarterback is obviously a question, like you said. Defense, I honestly think. What question marks do we have?
I don't.
I don't think we have any.
Maybe the health at linebacker.
Yeah.
But other than that, I couldn't think of any reason why. Oh, I worry about this, and this. Dom Izzo might, but
Yeah.
I'm not all that concerned about. No offense, Dom, I love you, but I don't have any problem with this offense going forward because again, the receiver depth is ridiculous. They could go 5-6 deep. I mean, they have like Kate Osterman, who they got from Minnesota, who was one of the best receivers that Minnesota's ever seen in high school. Plays there for a year, transfers, and he's like the 5th guy on this team. It's ridiculous. So the roster's still pretty loaded. The only real question is the quarterback controversy between Nathan Hayes and Cole Payton. Payton will be the starter going into spring. We'll see what happens after that. But nobody left in the portal, so which is because we thought after the title game, okay, I don't know. Are they going to lose Sibomana? Are they going to lose Bryce? Are they going to lose Jamar Brown? Are they going to lose, again, Sibomana? Everybody stuck around, which is a rarity in college football these days. But again, collective and that coaching staff really made a difference in my mind.
Yeah, I think people obviously were worried about Bryce Lance. I think the one that I was most worried about was Barika Penu because you see he doesn't get the starting job this year. Marty Brown takes over. Probably isn't going to be the starter next year.
No.
But again, the power of culture in college football, it helps.
It does. Let's just focus on the coaching staff just for a second. Jake Landry departs, the offensive coordinator. Really great first year. His only year.
Yeah.
Massive improvement from Tyler Roll. They were the number 1 offense. And I mean, statistically, they weren't the number 1 offense, but they surely played like it throughout the back half of the season. Dan Larson takes over the offensive line coach. I remember I saw this come out, and I'm like, that's perfect. Have the offensive line coach take over. He was a coordinator for a while in Division II.
Yeah.
I think it's a great hire to make Larson the OC.
Yeah, and for people that question it, they questioned him being the O-line coach, and he had never coached O-line to that point, and he sent Cordell Wilson to the NFL, Cody Mauk, now Gray Sable's going to be a top
20 pick.
Yeah, so I think he's going to do a good job.
Yeah, Joe Bishorner takes over as the quarterback coach because Landry was going to take that job after Randy Hedberg retired. Hedberg will still be around. He just won't be coaching any longer, but Bishorner takes over that job. I think no issues there. Dylan Chimura takes over as the offensive line coach. We're at Larson's former job. They got Chimura from Tennessee State. Now again, Eddie George is moving on from Tennessee State. Where did he go? Bowling Green?
Yeah.
Where did he go? Yeah, he went to Bowling Green. So Bishorner and Chimura, they take on new roles. And then also Sam Ojuri takes over as the running back coach. He was at Illinois State for about 4.5 years. And I think that's honestly, that's a slam dunk hire.
Yeah.
I think if you're Tim, he wants as many former Bison as he can get. I think they knocked it out of the park with Ojuri.
In this age of college football, you need guys that the players will like or they leave. And I don't think there's anybody that can relate to players more than Sam Ojuri I mean, he played here just 10 years ago. So
Exactly. So their spring practice begins on Monday. And for a couple Fridays, I'll definitely be at those Friday practices to see what's going on. Again, before we reveal our list, let's just tell everybody our criteria, and then let's name our honorable mentions as well before we get into the main list. So the criteria was this. We sat in the Spectrum office, and we talked about it for about 45 minutes. That was kind of the time allotted that we had when we're talking about for winter break. We had a word bank of 23 games, which this guy came up with. And we narrowed it down to our top 10, but let's name those honorable mentions first. So we have about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, we got about 5 games that we want to talk about just briefly. 24 Montana State National Championship game, already talked about it. It's a great title game. The reason why it's not on here is because the first half kind of sucked, but the back half was really, really good, and the way the ending was makes it a game that you'll always remember in your mind.
Yeah, any national title game that's a one-score game you'll always remember, and especially with the headlines, Vegan versus Polasek, it's hard to leave it out, but the first half just doesn't do it. No,
the Coastal Carolina 2014 quarterfinal is a game that one of the more unexpected great games, I would say, because it was 39-32. Because the year before Coastal came in here, I think it was 48-14.
Yeah.
The Bison just blasted them out of the playoffs that year. It was really back and forth. Coastal had the lead going into the fourth quarter. It was 32-31, I want to say, and then John Crockett breaks off a 40-yard touchdown run to take the lead. Two-pointer was good, and then they able to stop Coastal on their last drive to win the game. But unexpected, but a really good game in its own right.
Yeah, it was. It seems like we always have weird teams coming in here in the quarterfinals. Samford, Mercer, Coastal.
It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all, but back then those environments were much better. It doesn't help the attendance nowadays.
No, that's unfortunate. 2014 South Dakota State in the second round. They played a pretty, I wouldn't say a close game in the regular season game. The Bison won that one at home. The second round game was, I don't want to say weird, but it was really the first game where South Dakota State really showed what they were going to be in the future.
Mm-hmm.
They took a late lead. I can't remember how much time was left on the clock. It was like 4 minutes when they took the lead.
If that.
Jake Winicky, touchdown pass. It was a thorn in the side for years for Bison fans.
Yeah.
Carson leads them back down on a late drive, and then a little redshirt freshman, R.J. Urzendowski, came up and made a catch on the corner of the end zone to give them the lead in double coverage, mind you, to take the lead and win the game.
Yeah, it was really one of those games where it was kind of the first time for Bison fans where we really thought we might not be going to Frisco this year, and thankfully we had Carson Wentz.
Yeah, we had Carson. That made the difference. Again, just a couple home regular season games, and we'll get into the list. 2024 South Dakota State, not the semi, the regular season game in October, 13-9, first national television game at home since 2016. A lot of build-up, a lot of hype. Cam was, 0-5 as a starter against South Dakota State. They score early. Raja catches the touchdown. The Jacks come and respond with the touchdown, and then on that play, Chase Mason scores. But 10 yards to the left of that, there's Jackson Dutenheffer and Gronowski in a wrestling match on the sideline. Benches didn't clear, but the 22 guys on the field were going after it. Pretty interesting game. Hunter Dustman kicks a field goal at halftime. It's 9-7 Jacks. Stayed that way until, again, that late Bison drive. It was, 16? I can't remember how many plays it was. It was at least 10. And then he hit Raja on the corner for the touchdown to finally get the rock back after all those years.
Yeah, you think of all the quarterbacks having their legacy drive, legacy game. Brock Jensen against Kansas State, Wentz against Illinois State. That was Cam's kind of first go at it of leaving his legacy here at NDSU. And yeah, it felt like a semifinal game. The environment was crazy.
That was one of Raja and Nelson's only 4 games that year because he wanted to maintain a red shirt. So he only played, I believe, the South Dakota game was his last regular season game after that. So that was ridiculous. And then finally, 2013 Northern Iowa, the regular season contest they had. NDSU went undefeated that year. It was the third best team on our list of the top 10 teams of all time. That team was this close to losing a game that year to Northern Iowa. Yeah. They had to score 2 late touchdowns to win it. And man, that Northern Iowa team was talented. They had David Johnson on that team, who was really good with the Cardinals for a hot minute, and then haven't seen him since. But he was really good at that time.
Yeah, that was, like I said, Brock Jensen kind of leaving his legacy. And people of this generation don't really, probably our age and younger, don't really remember. But like Mark Farley's teams, they were some of the best teams we ever saw come to the Dome, and they were always tough no matter how good they were. Okay,
so let's set up number 10 before we play the highlights. So 2024 FCS semifinal versus South Dakota State. Again, the Bison won the game in October. The Bison won that game, so they got the higher seed going into that game. What do you remember about that game? Because I remember it being you just sat there. I sat there in the car with my family going, man, they may not win this game. I think they're going to win this game, but I'm just not sure.
It was weird because heading into that game, South Dakota State's playing probably their best football they had all year. They blew out Incarnate Word. They blew out Montana.
Yep.
Bison were kind of trending the other way.
Yes.
And I'm like, if Cam loses, not that it's his loss if they lose, but if they lose this game, that's what they're going to remember him for, is not being able to get past SDSU.
Yeah, it's just, I just thought with Cam, there's no way he's going to lose this game.
Yeah.
He's going to find a way to win this game over a team that you need to get past. Mm-hmm. Let's roll the highlights for number 10 while we're at it. So let's start off. So Ethan made this video, by the way, for you all to enjoy. So here you go. So here's number 10, again, December 21st, 2024, against South Dakota State. 28-21 was the final. Just full sold-out crowd, best you could have gotten that year. And then you start on this 1st and 10. You hit TK out of the backfield for a nice game to start it out.
I want to give TK Marshall a shout-out because I think he expected to be the starter coming into the year, and he played just a massive role of being that third down back.
Yeah, he did.
And he didn't get a ton of carries, but he played a big impact.
And then the guy who Jackrabbit fans still seeing their sleep. Bryce Lance on a 3rd and 10 gets it down to about the 25 on the Bison opening drive. South Dakota State got the ball and then punted on their first drive. And then here's Bryce again on a 3rd and 1. Get used to the fade route, boys and girls.
Yeah, I think what was funny about this game is Cam, he didn't look for the open guy. He just said, Bryce, you're always open. You just threw it to him.
Yeah. I mean, they played, Dallas Beanham on him, who got hurt later in
Yeah.
this game. And then here's Gronowski sneaking it in on the next drive. Just whenever he thought the Bison were going to maybe pull ahead, the Jacks, Gronowski, they always fought back. And then here comes Amar Johnson, still one of the best touchdown runs I've seen. He breaks like 6 tackles here.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff we saw out of Isaiah Davis. And,
Yes.
The Jacks didn't run the ball particularly well
No.
this year, but that was one of the few ones we saw from them.
So Jackrabbits have the momentum. Cam gets sacked right here. This is just a good play by the Jackrabbit defense. They get the sack. All momentum is on South Dakota State's side. And then this happens. Cody Heisman gets blocked into Amar Johnson, fumble, but Lashaka Rokes recovers.
Yeah, Lashaka Rokes, I think he has to have like 5 career fumble recoveries.
Yeah.
He had one against Incarnate Word.
For
he
real.
had that one. He's a sneaky good player.
Cody Heisman's going to be an all-conference player this year, no question.
Yeah, he is.
So again, when we get to 3rd and goal at the 2, Rabbits had stuffed a couple of those plays, and then 3rd and goal, Cam gets in to tie the game.
Yeah, it almost looked like that was designed. Like he was designed to roll out and wait for the pile to kind of come in, because I don't really see how that would have worked.
And
otherwise.
then you don't see as much the one-man route. Deep ball for the touchdown to Bryce. 1-on-3, and he brings it in to go ahead.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, they had a plan clearly. Him and Landry, they knew they were going to Bryce most of this game.
So again, got the momentum, 3rd and 8, and of course Griffin Wilde, who's now at Northwestern, makes a spinning catch on Jalen Crumby.
Yeah, as much as I really don't like Gronowski, he's very
Gotta
clutch.
respect him.
He's clutch.
And then on 3rd and 8, you think the Bison can force a field goal? Nope, Graham Goring is open in the left corner for a touchdown to even the score at 21-all.
Yeah, this is where I really thought, I'm like, this kind of felt like JMU 2016, but Cam kind of took over.
And then Cam breaks the quarterback power to near midfield. Adam Bach says hello. That's 15. So it gets the Bison down to about the 35-yard line. That is a late hit. I don't care what any Jackrabbit fan says. That's late and excessive. So it moves the Bison up 15 yards. Can't do that. We'll let Ethan provide the play-by-play there. You don't even play. And then 2nd and 7. I wonder what route they're going to throw. I wonder who it's going to.
Yeah.
It's 5 and green, Bryce Lance for the go-ahead score.
What was so funny about that catch is it was so silent in the dome, and you could hear in the video, in the replay, all of a sudden the place just erupts, and then, of course,
Polisek.
Coach P.
Now again, from where I used to have seats on the 10-yard line up a ways. That looked like a touchdown to me. You only need to have one hand with control, and as Jeff Page will tell us, put your hands up, that's 6.
Yep.
So the Bison went ahead 28-21. Then we got 4th and 17, a face mask from Evan Bernston, and then boom. Dudenheffer's in there, Rokes is in there, and then throw the ball to the referee, he doesn't play, and that's it. So that's how the Bison won that game, 28-21, and one of an instant classic between those two rivals.
Yeah, I kind of felt good for Jackson Dudenheffer because he didn't really have the greatest of the years. Or this year he didn't play that great, but because he's kind of shadowed by the most starts. But he ended up pulling through there.
But I mean that game meant so much for Cam. You can tell when he rips his helmet off and starts running around the field. It's just that game meant so much to him and that team. Incredible, just incredible the way that. And then Jimmy Rogers like, yeah, I'm going to Washington State. See you guys.
Yeah.
So let's pause it here let's talk about number 9 here. So number 9, we got 2015 homecoming versus Northern Iowa. Those UNI games were wars. They'd play another one later in the quarterfinal round in that playoff run, but man, the 2013 game was great. But going into this game, the Bison had a chip on their shoulder because they lost 23-3 the year before in Cedar Falls. Also, last time they lost to Northern Iowa was in 2014 in Cedar Falls. You knew this game was going to be a war. It was going to be a sellout, and it was just going to be a defensive slog between the two teams. As it turned out, offensive shootout.
Yeah, it was. We knew coming in they had 2 quarterbacks, and Aaron Bailey.
Cole Morgan and Aaron Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey was a nightmare for Bison fans. Like I was talking about those legacy drives, Carson Wentz. You'll see in the video. He was a magician that last drive. They were 3rd and 20 to 4th and 7 to convert.
Zach Vrau was a hero in that game. Let's roll number 9 highlights of that game. And 2015, October 10th, homecoming at that time. You know how old this game was? It was on KVLY. That's how old this game was. Peterson Farm Seed. Kick off your planting season with Peterson Farm Seed. Shout out to Brian Sean.
Let's give a shout out to these score bugs. They're
Yeah.
not the greatest.
Sawyer Cole Morgan, Doris Fountain, the guy who I think was on the Missouri Valley All Conference team, breaks away from C.J. Smith, gives him the early lead.
Yeah, it was like the third play of the game.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, here we go. This is going to be a battle, and certainly was.
And Cam Peterson, back when he was reliable for a field goal,
Yeah.
knocks this one through for a 7-3 UNI lead.
Look at that crowd. I mean, every seat's filled. It's not that it's not like that anymore, but every game was like that back then.
Again, who's that? That one's I'm ahead in the game. Intercepted by Tim Kilfoy. That guy was a dang good safety in his day in Northern Iowa. He gets down to about the 10-yard line. I think UNI punches this in on the next play or so here. Yeah, this is Darian Miller going in for the score.
These are guys that you just don't see with Northern Iowa anymore. I mean, these are like guys that could have played probably in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
You talk about
no doubt.
all their DBs they had. I mean, they were good.
And here's Jeff Ilias from Carson Wentz to make it a 14-10 game. Again, the NDSU on the goal line, you're running in, you're throwing it to the tight end. There really is no in between.
Yeah, that's how it was back then. It was just...
And then this happens, tip drill interception. I can't remember who comes up with the ball here. It's 49 for Northern Iowa. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But again, Carson had a tendency to throw some picks.
Yeah, he almost threw the ball so hard that it was hard to catch sometimes.
And here's the Urzendowski play I was trying to go to, but Tim Kilfoy broke that up down to the 5-yard line.
Yeah, Urzendowski is. I mean, he was a senior when he started as a freshman. He played like a senior.
And then Jedry Sear, the fullback, his first career touchdown. He now brings the gear from town to town when they're on the road.
Yep.
He scores his first and only career touchdown. And then Darian Miller goes back in for Northern Iowa to reclaim the lead.
Yeah, it was a straight option offense when Aaron Bailey came into the game. He wasn't the greatest thrower, but
Far from it.
yeah.
We saw that in the playoff game.
This guy
and then
could throw it,
Carson, the dime, double coverage to Darius Shepard on the shoulder. That was 70%, gives the Bison the lead.
Yeah, that's where Darius Shepard was introduced to us, and we knew he was going to be a star.
For sure. And then, so they have the lead temporarily, and then Aaron Bailey shows his best David Johnson impersonation, breaks the outside, and no one's going to catch him. You'll see C.J. Smith come late into your picture.
Yeah.
Yike! That's Trey Dempsey, my fault. He misses, and that's an 80-yard touchdown for Aaron Bailey. And then the Panthers retake the lead.
Yeah, I think it was like 14-10 going into half, and then all of a sudden we're talking about a shootout.
And then Schmadicke here, looks like my 6-iron, far and outside, misses the field goal. So the Bison have a chance with 2:30 to go. I think they're out of timeouts, are they not at this point? So Carson, 4th and 7, Zach Vra, the surest hands on the team. Only have 1 foot with control. He's got it. First down, Bison. So minute 34. Now almost inside a minute. Carson to Urzendowski, uncovered, gets out near the 30-yard line. So with under a minute to go, they're within shouting distance. Carson over the middle, Vra again to about the 15. Again, plenty of time. Clock stops. 40 seconds. He checks it to Darius Shepard. Slot fade. Where have I seen that before? Perfectly thrown ball in the back left corner of the end zone. Bison take a late lead.
Yeah, people forget that coming into this game, the Bison were 3-1, I believe. And if you drop to 3-2, you're talking about dropping out of the top 8 seed. And we know what happened after this game, losing to South Dakota.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been a nightmare.
But until then, Aaron Bailey, last gasp, throws one up, back of the end zone, knocked away, and the Bison come away with a huge win over UNI, which, again, the Bison would get the 3 seed this year and host Northern Iowa later on. They would win that game, though. So, again, instant classic inside the Fargo. And let's pause it here. So, you see on the screen there what number 8 may end up being. It's the 2019 Dakota marker game between the Bison and the Jacks. The last marker game the Bison would win until this year. What people remember about this game was College Game Day came to Brookings for this game. And again, if the hype wasn't there already, it was really there when College Game Day and Corso came to town.
Yeah, the hype. It seemed like every year we were like, okay, this is the most anticipated game. This one is. But that one, I think, other than, I mean, the national championship, it is what it is. But this one was the most anticipated Dakota marker game you can think of.
The only marker game Trey Lance played in.
Yeah.
And what a game it was. So let's roll the highlights for number 8, the 2019 Dakota marker game between the Bison and the Jacks on October 26th. Using the old KVOI footage again. We would use the Midco footage, but A, we can't find it, and B, don't really care to look at it. I'd rather listen to Brian Sean. Chase Vinatieri opens the scoring. Yes, he's related to Adam Vinatieri. Puts that one through the left upright. 3-0 Jacks.
I swear Adam Vinatieri played like 6 years before COVID, even before the COVID years were a thing.
And Crosa leaves this one short. I don't know if that one was blocked or he just shanked it. I think he just shanked it.
Yeah, he had a rough first few years, but he was solid at the end.
Vinatieri comes back on. 6-0 Rabbits. And Jabori Gibbs was the starter this year for South Dakota. So he didn't finish this game. Keaton Heide would finish this game. Crosa finally sticks one through. 6-3 now. And then before the half, Vinatieri, whoops, way right, misses that one. So 6-3 was the halftime score. Bison couldn't get anything going until Ty Brooks says hello. He's gone, and the Bison take a lead.
Ty Brooks got to be one of the more underrated running backs we've had. I mean, he was a backup for so long, and then he comes in 2019, he just kind of lights it up.
And here's Keaton Heide into the game. Gibbs had gotten hurt by this point. Ball comes out. Matt Biegler is going to run after it. Jackson Hankey probably would have scored had he recovered that fumble, but Biegler falls on it. Then the next play, Lance Ben Ellefson wide open.
It's just a classic Bison play action, tight end in the corner of the end zone. Happens a couple times a year, it seems like.
So 16-6. Vinatieri barely gets that one through the upright. So 16-9. And then Keaton Heide on the read option. He'll score here to even the game at 16.
Yeah, this is where I started kind of getting nervous, and then you'll see what happens.
You know where I really got nervous was this. Dimitri Williams, A, what are you doing? B, why are you throwing it straight to the Jackrabbits?
I'll give Matt Entz one thing of credit, though. He wasn't afraid to do trick plays. I don't know if he was
just not there.
Yeah, just not there. Just not there.
Not on 3rd and 2. But again, Josh Hayes is able to bail us out here. Playing zone, backs off his man. Keaton Heide, what are you doing? Interception to the 20. Bison get the ball back.
Yeah, Jacks were lucky that they didn't have to use him the next year.
And then Adam Cofield is gone. 71 yards. See you later.
If we made a list of top 10 plays,
this would be on it.
Yeah.
No doubt. Oh, unbelievable way to take the lead. And then they were able to get a stop and kneel the rest of the clock out, and the Bison were able to take the rock back. Last time they've won in Brookings, 23-16 Bison win over South Dakota State.
Yeah, I guess I wish I would have put in the Derek Tuska crushing sack 2 in a row, actually. But
so let's pause it here. So before we get to this, here's number 7 for you. 2021 semifinals, the last dance for James Madison and FCS. What a game this was built up to be. This was JMU's last ride at FCS. They were going to go to the Sun Belt after this season. Cole Johnson was there. Juice Wells was at receiver. This was a loaded, and there was some words exchanged before the game even started. I mean, there was a lot of beef between these two teams.
It's so funny because at 2021, nobody had played on that team from 2016, but the players knew that they didn't like each other, and you could see it before the game. You could see it during the game. It's a playoff rivalry. It's like the Chiefs and the Bills.
Yes, and they had played 2 seasons earlier where the Bison went on the pick by Jimmy Football to win that one. Just so many storylines in that game. Again, Cam Miller, redshirt freshman, is playing in this game. But again, the story of this game was Hunter Lipke. He was the guy. Let's roll number 7 on our list of this top 10 NDSU football games of all time. Those Friday night semis in the Fargo Dome. The great Wes Durham's on the call, the Atlanta Falcons radio announcer. He's calling this game. This is Nelson from the 10. He'll bring it out to about the 15.
An underrated tradition. We're in the green in the semis.
Fantastic decision. Another fantastic decision. Throw it to 44 and good luck tackling him. He's into the end zone. Bison lead early.
Yeah, I always wonder how they found out that Lipke was a receiver too. He must have just, in practice, just chucked it to him.
Field goal is true. 10-0 Bison. Had Reinhold's back at that point. Cole Johnson, not a good idea throwing to bracket double coverage. Did it anyway. Dawson Weber's there for the pick. He had an open receiver on the right-hand side. Never saw him. 10-0. And then before the half, thought they could get 6. They said settle for 3, take a 13-0 lead into the locker room.
Yeah, Cole Johnson, I think that was only his second pick of the season at that point.
And here's Antoine Wells at that point, now known as Juice Wells, gets into the end zone to make it a 6-point game. Again, Bison couldn't get anything going in the third quarter. The Dukes did. This is Ravenel for the touchdown. So it's 14-13 Dukes as we head to the fourth quarter. They really own the third quarter.
They blocked a punt, too, in that quarter.
They did.
Didn't show it.
And then, for some reason, they lost Hunter Lipke again for another touchdown. So 2 receiving touchdowns for Lipke. They grab a 20-14 lead. And then the play that Destin Talbert's forever known for, one-handed interception to save the 6-point lead.
I don't know if, other than Georgia Southern, I think that's one of the loudest environments at the Fargo Dome's ever had. I mean, especially after that pick, that was insane. People were hugging each other. They didn't know. It was crazy.
JMU only had one timeout. They did use it, and so we're down to this play. This was the second to last play of the game. Cole Johnson stumbles, gets sacked by Javier Derrett. Should have thrown it out of bounds, didn't. Clock keeps going. Everybody's making the clock go faster signal. Fast receivers come back from long routes. Defense is already set. And then Liam Fornadell, the left tackle, does the best Ole impression I've ever seen on the backside there. Lets Logan McCormick get through, and the quarterback pressure knocks the ball out. Game over, Bison win.
You could just tell how exhausted everyone was to that point. I mean, that's how physical these games were with JMU. It's kind of sad to see that rivalry go. Hopefully we meet them one day.
Let's stop it there. Now, number 6 on our list. Again, not many second-round games are going to make this list. This one was too good to leave off. Number 6, the 2023 FCS second-round playoff game between the Bison and Montana State. Not many times are you going to say that anymore in the FCS playoff field. 2 Titans going at it in the second round. Unreal. This was the last season of only the top 8 being seeded. Now the top 16 gets seeded. Because if you remember in the playoff field that year when the bracket came out, Villanova was seeded 8th. Do you really think Villanova was the 8th best team in the country that year?
No, not even close.
Not even close. And the reason was they don't want to have Bison Jacks in the second round.
Yeah,
they're not going to do that. So instead, they gave them Drake in the first round, beat the crap out of them, wasn't even a game, and that sets up this game between the 6-seeded Bobcats, who didn't have a great year. They came off a loss to Montana in the Brawl of the Wild. The Bison are coming in. Again, they lost to the Jacks. They didn't lose another game until the semifinal that year.
Yeah.
But we thought Bobcats are more talented. We thought they could tackle better. This just didn't seem like a game they were going to win.
And historically, especially that year, running quarterbacks were kind of our weakness. And you never know. If they Bison lose in the second round rather than the semifinals, who knows who enters the portal at that point.
Yeah. Well, let's roll the highlights for number 6, the 2023 FCS second-round playoff game. The Bozeman Block is the game as it is referred to. Odd first quarter for Montana State. Malot's playing quarterback. Another one of those games he didn't finish while playing the Bison, but he started out strong. Takes a little quarterback read play. If he keeps his feet, he may score, but he gets near midfield. And then, remember the name Casey Kautzman, boys and girls. First one off the mark, no good, not even close. Hooks that one right. Bison don't really get anything going. So here's Kautzman from 50. His long was 44. That one's way off the mark.
Might want to go for it, Coach V.
Might have wanted to go for that, but nope, too long. So 4th and 11, the field goal's no good. So with 5:11 to go, still no score. And then the Montana State finally starts getting going on offense. Wide open receiver, Malott to number 6 in Montana State for I think it's Ty McCullough for the touchdown for Montana State. So they take an early lead here. Back come the Bison. Zach Mathis, big target, give him the ball.
Yeah, it was those first like 3 drives, the Bison couldn't do anything.
And then the classic pin and pull to Tamarick Williams, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, Tamarick Williams had a really good finish to his career. He wasn't the most talented guy ever, I would say, but he played well.
Malott up the middle in the quarterback power. He muscles his way into the end zone. So we're all square at 14 heading into the locker room. Game we kind of figured back and forth. And then the first play of the third quarter, Tamarick Williams, again, bad angle by the safety, dives and misses. I don't think number 10 is going to catch him. He could go all the way. Bison back in front.
This is the year they didn't rush the ball well, and the one game they needed it to, they did.
They couldn't tackle well either because Tommy Malott, no one's going to stop him.
No.
I would provide more commentary, but there really isn't any need for more. He's going to score 21 all. Again, Bobcats at home. They had won 19 straight home games heading into this one. Little trick play. They find McCullough again for, I think it's Cleveland Thomas actually for the touchdown. 28-21. Montana State jumps in front. Thought the Bison were dead, and here comes TK Marshall for the touchdown to tie the game at 28.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, TK Marshall, when you really needed it, he'd give you a burst every once in a while. Another
bad angle by the safety. Yeah. Again, 20. Now, Malott gets hurt. Malott's his backup, Sean Chambers, who isn't healthy either. He runs. Looks like he has a big gain. He might score. Problem is he steps out of bounds at the 35. Remember that because the Montana State does not score on that drive. He ends up getting sacked, and so we go into overtime. Cam Miller with the spin, the lunge, and the score to take the lead.
Yeah, I wish I would have included that sack because Dylan Hendricks and Cava were the kind of the heroes on that drive.
And then a guy we'd figure out to know much more about later next year, it's Scotch-Ray Humphrey. He thinks he's tied the game, and then they got to bring Casey Kautzman on. Simple extra point, right? Wrong. Kick is blocked. Hunter Pontius, guy who's still making money off of T-shirts he printed after this game. Bison win a classic 35-34.
You can see the emotion from Vegan right there. I guess it cuts it off, but every time he plays NDSU, you know he really wants it, and he still hasn't been able to do it.
Wanting it and getting it are two different things. Brent Vega's still trying to figure that out. So number 5, into our top 5. A couple championship games to come on here. Our first championship game we're going to talk about, 2017 FCS National Championship game. Defending champion James Madison and the Hungry Bison. This was a game that I remember I went to this game, and my dad and I were in the car, and he goes, what if they lose?
Yeah.
And I'm like, they don't lose. They're going to find a way to win. In the back of my mind, I'm going, JMU's more talented. I don't know if they're going to win. I don't know if we're going to win, but man, the players that were on that field, the amount of pros on that field, unbelievable.
It was a Big Ten football game
Yes.
if you really look at it. And if you talk about hype going into all these STSU games, I don't think anything tops this because it was the first time the Bison were looking for redemption. It was kind of the first time Easton Stick was the head of the team and actually like winning a title.
Yeah.
And it was Shore's last game for JMU.
It was.
It was a lot of JMU's, a lot of their last games.
I think JMU fans would argue about officiating in this game multiple times over, but let's roll number 5. North Dakota State, James Madison, 2017 national title. Bruce Anderson's going to open the scoring here. Did he score? According to the referees, he did. So 7-0 Bison early on. Bruce, maybe not the 1-inch line, but we're not going to talk about that. Put the points on the board. Ethan Radke comes on for the Dukes, 31-yarder. He puts that one through, 7-3 Bison. And then this was a problem throughout the game. Boom, Simeon Robinson says hello for JMU. Cooner trying to fall on it, can't. Dukes recover. And you think, oh no, JMU's got all the momentum. They're deep in Bison territory. And then this happens. Nate Tangway somehow off the shoe tops with the interception.
Probably one of the more popular personalities on the team, and of course he's the guy who gets a pick as a D tackle. 99 with D tackle gloves makes that happen. 3rd and 17 after a false start. Blown coverage in the back end. Darius Shepard is only receiving touchdown on the season. Puts the Bison up 14-3. So that was a legacy throw for Stick. It was 3rd and 17. In that time, they were probably looking to punt it later on.
Then here's Peterson for the last kick he'd make all year, 17-3, going almost in the locker room. Jamu would tie it up, would get a field goal though, 17-6. Radke puts that one through at the half. So 17-6, JMU gets some momentum later in the third quarter. Marcus Marshall finds the end zone. We got a ball game, 17-13 the score.
Yeah, JMU had a really tough O-line that year. It's hard to stop the run.
But again, Brian Shore, bad decision here. Marquise Bridges, redshirt freshman, in because of injury, makes the pick and turns JMU away at the doorstep. And then good old Cam Peterson, blocked field goal. He was known for these, getting his kicks blocked. Gets this one blocked. So JMU's got all the momentum now, down 4, chance to win it. Force a punting situation, right? Wrong. Harry O'Kelly, of all people, a 25-yard rush to get the Dukes inside the 30 and set up a chance to win the game.
That was the moment where I truly thought the Bison were actually going to lose.
We're doomed, yeah. As it turns out, though, get to 4th and 16. This again after a false start. Shore rolling out. Jabril Cox lights up Brian Shore. Ball short of the end, does barely get into the end zone. Ball's knocked away, and the Bison hold on the goal line.
Yeah, I was sitting around the 20-yard line at this game, and I think
I was in that end zone.
Yeah, that was one of the craziest crowd reactions.
And then Stick just rolls out, gets the last 4 seconds off the clock, and Bison get redemption. They win their 6th title, 17-13 over James Madison. Fantastic championship game.
I think to that point, probably the sweetest victory title that they've had. It was truly a redemption tour.
So up to that point, those first 5 are great. Number 4, starting into the FBS action a little bit. 2013, Kansas State, the game that really put the Bison on the map. They beat the defending Big 12 champs in this game. Kansas State, coached by the legendary Bill Snyder, they won the Big 12 that previous year. They beat Texas in the last game of the year to clinch the title. They made the Fiesta Bowl that year, but they had a new quarterback and Jake Waters. Colin Klein, a Heisman Trophy finalist, had left for the NFL. I don't think he actually played in the NFL, but he took a shot at it anyway. And this Bison team, again, one of the top 3 teams in Bison history. This is where they really put themselves on the map in college football.
Yeah, and I remember hearing a story. Kleiman actually was talking to Dom Izzo, and he said he truly was on the phone. He was on the phone with some guy from Utah State, I think, and he said, "I think we're going to beat Kansas State."
Yep.
And of course, now he says it.
Yeah, because was he going to be the D coordinator or the head coach? I think it was just be the D coordinator.
Yeah. But
and that turns out that didn't happen. And he's like, well, maybe the head coach if we win and Bull leaves. So let's roll number 4 on our list. In Manhattan, hot night. I think it was 90 degrees at kickoff, sweltering heat. Brock Jensen to Ryan Smith. Those two knew each other well for the touchdown. Bison lead early.
Brock Jensen was remarkable in this game. You can see it in that.
Jake Waters wasn't great, but you want to throw a good deep ball. Tremaine Thompson's wide open. He'll score. Beats Colton Heagle 7-7. They had some athletes at wide receiver.
Tyler Lockett was
especially
on the
this guy. He's now a free agent, but Seahawk legend Tyler Lockett beats Marcus Williams, the All-American, 14-7 Wildcats.
I think you could count on your one hand how many times Marcus Williams ever got burnt.
We'll see one of those later.
Yep.
Daniel Sams, the running quarterback for Kansas State, he finds the end zone. 21-7, where they oh no.
Yeah.
It's been a great time. We may not win this one. Ball up and in for the touchdown to Kevin Vodlin, the starting tight end. He finds the end zone from Jensen, 21-14. So they're getting back into the game. Got some momentum, and then pinned deep, Sam O'Jury finds a crease, beats the safety. Great run by Sam O'Jury. He'll get knocked out of bounds. Well, he doesn't get knocked out of bounds, he more tumbles to the ground. Gets down to about the 25-yard line. Drive would stall. Adam Keller comes on. Center cut, knocks it through. 21-14 the score. So 21-17, they headed into the fourth quarter. Again, one of the most legendary drives in Bison history. 18-play drive. Vraw with the catch for a first down. And here's Crockett on a 2nd and 3. He spins to the 20 to get a first down. Simple run, nothing special about it. Another big chunk. Crockett inside the 15.
What really stuck out is that there's a minute left and they're just pounding it. They don't care. They know they can do it.
Another 3rd down. Vraw again. If it's 3rd down, go to 82, and that's what Jensen did there. 1st and goal from the 8. Subtle fake is just enough to get him near the goal line. Billy Turner falls on him at the 1-yard line. Then probably the play that Jensen is the second play he's known for. I don't know if this was a broken play or he meant to do this, but follows his blockers, leans it into the end zone to give the Bison a late lead.
You know what's funny is that even if that was a broken play, now that's like a design play they run now.
That's true. Yeah, true. So Bison jump ahead late. Last chance for Kansas State. Jake Waters rolling right. In a crowd, Grant Olson, the now linebacker and defensive coordinator coach, comes in and gets the interception to seal it. He would tear his ACL later this year and play in the championship game on it, but what a win.
Famous words from Grant Olson after this game, this wasn't an upset.
No, it wasn't. Turns out it was not. It was far from it. Again, the Bison would go undefeated that year, win the title. Kansas State had a very mediocre season. I think they were in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl when that was a thing. So that's number 4 for you. Number 3, one of the more surprising championship game results, 2014 against Illinois State. They were the 5 seed that year, Illinois State was. They defeated Eastern Washington and number 1 New Hampshire to get to the championship game. The Bison, again, we've documented this, they struggled through their competition. They eventually beat Sammy in the semifinal, but this team with Illinois State, Trey Roberson was a dude.
Yeah, he was Tommy Mellott before Tommy Mellott.
Yeah, he's better than Mellott, I would think.
Illinois State, just like Illinois State's still good, but just like Northern Iowa, they used to have some ridiculous athletes and kind of tatered off a little bit now. But
again, this was Carson's first year starting. They beat Iowa State earlier that year. Again, the loss to Northern Iowa. They won the marker that year. They did everything they needed to do that year. Check, check, check. On their way to this championship game against Illinois State. Let's roll the highlights for number 3. So Bison Redbirds' 4th consecutive championship appearance for NDSU, but it was Illinois State who jump out first. Trey Roberson, where he was dangerous, finds John Mark Anderson in the right corner of the end zone to give Illinois State an early lead.
Nick DeLuca slipping at the end of that play.
Mr. Reliable Adam Keller knocks that one through from 41 yards, 7-3. That guy rarely missed a kick.
Yeah.
Rarely. Then Luke Albers, get used to that play in that formation, but for now, Albers from Wentz to give the Bison the lead, 10-7.
I think this was probably the first time that we had cold weather in Frisco, too.
Yeah, true. That's true. Then this one's also true from 41 for Adam Keller, 13-7. Getting some breathing room in the third quarter. And then Crockett breaks this one open for a touchdown. And this is where I thought, okay, they're going to be comfortable win.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. It's 20-7. We're good. Mm-hmm. Nothing bad could ever happen, right? Well, as it turns out, Roberson, where he's dangerous again, breaks the pocket. Carlton Littlejohn with the pressure. And for some reason, they forgot to tackle James O'Shaughnessy, and he roams to the end zone to get Illinois State back in it.
O'Shaughnessy was a lot like Tucker Kraft, just big size, hard to bring down, and played a big role in this game.
Yeah, missed opportunity here, kicking a field goal. That one's good. So 23-14. Yeah, Chris Kleiman tells you they probably should have scored a touchdown on that drive. And 3rd and goal, Roberson doing what he does best on the run. O'Shaughnessy again in double coverage, in double zone coverage.
Illinois State looked kind of unstoppable at this point.
And they really were here, because Trey Roberson, I don't think Christian Dudzig's that fast.
No.
He's a great video guy, but not a great tackler in the open field. And he is gone with 1:38. And like, oh no. Illinois State may have just had one of the greatest runs in championship history. And then zero blitz of all things. Carson Wentz off his back foot. Urzendowski beats the free safety Glass there, number 14, to get him inside the 5.
Probably one of the greatest throws we'll ever see.
Again, touchdown to Albert, same formation. Touchdown Carson, they take a late lead. Just unreal.
I still, at this point, too much time. Trey Roberson, I believe the wind was going towards their way, too.
And Nick Oster's a great kicker. Problem is he would never see the field because Esley Thornton rips it away from the tight end Joe Farmer. And the Bison come away with their 4th national championship. And then all heck breaks loose on the field. There was not a penalty thrown for that, which will forever be funny. But yet flags rain down after the final knee is taken, which I still have no idea why they did that. But a classic of a game. Those two teams did not like each other, as you can see in the post game. Yeah. But 29-27 Bison, what a win.
Yeah, probably it was the first title game we saw where we actually thought, okay, we might lose this one. And Carson Wentz was just clutch all year and proved it there again.
Top 2, 2016 Iowa. This is one that you could debate being number 1, but there's one game better than this, and we'll get to that in a second. But Northern Iowa, we're straight up Iowa. Iowa finished the previous year 12-2. They were 12-0 to end the regular season. They were ranked 4th that year. Now remember, CFP is now in the books of 2016. All Iowa had to do, beat Michigan State, they're going to the CFP. Well, LJ Scott had other plans. Michigan State late touchdown run to beat Iowa. So you have to settle for the Rose Bowl of all things. So they play in the Rose Bowl, and Christian McCaffrey ended that game in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so they're coming off that. The Bison are the 5-time defending champs. No more Carson. It's now Easton Stick as a full-time starter. Again, still a really good Bison team, but again, this is the 13th ranked team in the country they're going against here.
Yeah, it was going into Kansas State. We had a veteran team, so it's like, okay, we have a chance. We still don't think we're going to win. Iowa State, it was whatever. This was the first FBS game where I think Bison fans thought we're probably not going to win this one.
Let's roll number 2 from Kinnick and see what happened. So mid-September game, they played 2 overtime games against Charleston Southern and Eastern Washington to get their 2 wins. Stick, I don't know where he's throwing this. He found Brandon Snyder. Problem is he plays for Iowa with the interception. So Iowa early momentum stops the drive. And then, boom, Pierre G. Tucker into the arms of MJ Stumpf, pick 6, and the Bison take the early lead.
MJ Stumpf, one of the more underrated linebackers in Bison history, if you ask me, especially with that play.
But the Iowa receivers would get into the action. Riley McCarron gets open for a touchdown.
People forget guys like Kittle were on this team, Desmond King, Beathard. I mean, this was a...
Beathard played quarterback for the Niners for a while.
Yeah, this was an NFL team, NFL talented
Matt
team.
Vandenberg, the other receiver, gets open. I get those two mixed up all the time, between McCarron and Vandenberg. They look the same. Mm-hmm. King Frazier to tie the game up. Little D-line at fullback there. You don't see that very much. Evens the game at 14. Then Beathard rolling, breaks a tackle. Then Vandenberg and McCarron were both open, but Vandenberg found his way to the football first. So they take a 21-14 lead. And Cam Peterson, we'll get to his heroics later, but for now, misses this one short from 50. He could make a 50-yard field goal. The play fake, the toss, and the touchdown to Chase Morlock on the wheel route. The play he's best known for is the Morlock route, that wheel. And then they went for two. I like the play. I like the play call. I just hate the execution.
Yeah.
He's looking for the receiver. He falls down. Nobody but Hawkeyes in that corner of the end zone. Just has to throw it up. I think the ball was tipped twice. And the result is a moot point.
I was so surprised they went for two just because Kleiman never did stuff
Well,
like
Robbie
that.
Grimsley made up for it because he sacks Beathard here on 3rd and 11. So Bison with timeouts with 2 minutes. And then the quarterback draw, which Tim Polasek still remembers to this day as one of his favorite plays. Stick breaks it on his future teammate, Desmond King, down to the 35-yard line. I think Desmond with the Chargers for a little while anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the kick that Cam's best known for sneaks this sucker inside the upright to give the Bison a remarkable 23-21 win.
Yeah, I think this one's probably number 2 on behind Appalachian State over Michigan. I don't think anybody's going to be able to top those 2 games, beating a defending Big Ten champ.
Yeah. Now, JMU, they beat Virginia Tech when they were 13th ranked in the country, but that wasn't as well known, I think, as this one was. National television, morning game. You couldn't have asked for a better. I mean, they outrushed Iowa in this game. I think they had the ball longer than Iowa. They out-Iowa'd Iowa in that game.
The trenches were the difference. And the Bison showed, I mean, their O-line that year was ridiculous. Zach Johnson, Landon Leckler, Austin Cooner.
Yeah. It goes down the line of how good that team is. Again, it's a shame they couldn't win the title that year because they were so injury-riddled by that JMU semifinal. They didn't pull it through. But I think when we did this list, it's like we started at 1 and then went down because 2012 Georgia Southern is the game that all Bison fans remember most.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the season before, Georgia Southern came in here, 6-time national champion. They're the gold standard at the FCS level, and the Bison just clobbered them 35-7 that year in that 2011 semifinal. And my favorite stat that I found while digging up for this video, Georgia Southern, they played Alabama that year, who won the FBS title that year. They ran the ball on Nick Saban's team for 302 yards. 302. That's unbelievably good, how good that is.
Yeah, we don't see, I mean, back then, this FCS, there were 8 teams that were probably legit contenders. You had Georgia Southern, the Bison, Northern Iowa. I mean, the list went on, and that's what produced these great games.
But at this point, the Bison are the defending champion, 2011 championship. Everything was going their way. They got to host Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern had to beat Old Dominion to get to this game. But they came to play. Let's roll highlights of the top game in NDSU football history. December 14th, 2012, a date that not a lot will forget in Fargo. Jarek McKinnon, the future Viking, is playing quarterback, and nobody ran the triple option pitch better than Georgia Southern. They take the lead early. Block field, extra point was blocked. John Crockett finds the end zone here to make it 6-6. Their extra point got blocked. Eric Russell got a piece of that one, so it's 6-6. Again, McKinnon wasn't much of a passer, finds Dominique Swope here. And then we get buffering. Isn't that great? Dominic Swope, and then Marcus Williams, can you please tackle instead of just wrapping him up? He finds his way into the end zone. One of the strongest runs I've ever seen from a guy who takes off just a pure shot to the chest and still manages to score. So, got some video malfunction. That's okay. They're going to reload the video for us. So at this point, so let's just think about it at this point. They got the lead back. 13-6. Everything's going the way of Georgia Southern. They're able to kick a field goal through at the end of the first half. It's 13-9. And then my favorite run in NDSU football history, Samuel Jury out the back door, and he's gone.
Yeah, that'll go. Like I said earlier, if we made a top 10 plays list, this one would probably be on it too.
My favorite run ever.
Just a momentum shifter.
Or so we thought. So it's 16-13 with about 4 minutes, with about a quarter left in the game. If they can't get the video up, that's fine. So we'll go for the rest of the game here. So it's 16-13. Bison are now ahead, And then for some reason, the Bison, they give up a long touchdown run to McKinnon on an option play later in the half. So the Bison are down going into the fourth quarter. They're down 20-16 late in the fourth quarter, and you're thinking, oh no, you know,
Yeah.
this might be maybe they just won the one title and that was it.
Yeah, well, I mean, when the Bison made the jump to FCS, people didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into, and then win a title, it's like, oh, that was cool. And then this was kind of the point where we're like, okay, we kind of got ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, so Darvin's trouble with the video in the back, and that's okay. As we get to the fourth, again, the greatest drive in Bison history, I think, is it's just one where you think about it all the time, and you just go, that's what I think about most. I'll pull it up on my laptop if they can't find it. But there you go. We got the highlights back. Good job, Henry. 16-13 until Georgia Southern is able to creep ahead late on a Jarek McKinnon 25-yard touchdown. Again, nobody ran the option better than Jarek McKinnon did. That dude was quick. So again, 5 minutes to go, and then the 4th and 3. To have the Onions to run this play, to call it, and then to execute it the way they did, unbelievable.
Put the ball in the hands of your best player, I guess. That's what they did.
The loudest I've ever heard the Dome.
Oh, yeah.
Until a couple minutes later. But for now, it's 22-20. Ayat comes in, I think that's his name. He hits Denard Walker, of all people. Marcus Williams gets beat again. One of the very few times you see Marcus get beat. A backup receiver beats him on this play. Problem is, Georgia Southern isn't a great kicking team. They brought in Drew Ruggles to play kicker. But for now, Denard Walker, and then Ruggles, a soccer player, kicks it. It doesn't even go close because it's blocked by Littlejohn. And I don't think that lineman's allowed to catch passes. 55 minutes, tip it to somebody else. Ball on the ground, Bison come away with it, and they win the game. Just an all-timer between those two teams.
What puts this one at 1 for me is the fact that it was like the first time where it was just like a nail-biting game and a playoff game at this Division I level. It was just an all-timer. I don't know if we'll ever get beat.
I don't think there's a game. Maybe there will be one in the future, and that's why you keep playing these games.
Yeah.
But that's just a game that people think of so fondly. Mm-hmm. That just when say Dom asks the question, "What's your favorite game?" That's the one that comes to mind. It's not particularly close.
And the noise. I mean, Craig Bull said after the game, ear-splitting noise, and you get a headache after the game. He said it was that loud.
Yeah, I mean, to you, is that the game that you think about? Say, that's when I think of Bison football. Is that the game that you think about?
Oh yeah, for sure. And a fun fact, that was my very first game ever. I was 7 years old.
Welcome to Bison football, young man. At that point,
it was a wild game.
I was at that game. I remember I was 7 years old when that game happened. That's still surreal that was that long ago now.
Yeah.
We were coming up on 13 years since that game happened. We're getting old, man. If that was that long ago, but that's the number one game. I don't think we're hardly a debate. That's the game that I think about when it comes to Bison football. That's the game. No matter what happens the rest of time, that's the game to think about where you go, all the great players on that field, all the great names on that field, all the great coaches that were playing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Bull was the head coach. Vegan was the offensive coordinator. Polisek was on that staff. Kleiman was the D coordinator on that staff. I mean, that's unreal when you think about it.
Yeah, the list goes on to the coaches and players, and again, the fans were into it because it was a new thing. I think the only way this game will ever be topped is if the Bison play an FBS game. Like if they somehow were in FBS and they played I don't know, Minnesota or somebody at the Dome. No, it won't. But yeah, this game will never get topped in my book.
Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I mean, I think my favorite one that I've been to on this list is probably that JMU one in 17, just because that was the first time I got to go to Frisco.
Yeah, the first time I went as well, yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of the first time we were in Frisco and we're like, okay, we're probably not the better team here, and they pulled it out.
Yeah, unbelievable game. I'm same with him. That game was surreal. It's all I can think about is that JMU game because I remember I went to Frisco for the first time. We drove down actually, and so you go to the National Video Game Museum. You run into a couple of JMU fans, nicest people ever.
Oh, yeah.
Great people. They're awesome fans.
Way better than
Jackrabbit fans, better than UND fans who don't understand the meaning between football and hockey come football season, but that's okay. We won't hold it against them. But that unreal. That's all I can say is that was unreal. The 2012 semifinals, the best dome game I've ever been in. Maybe there'll be better. We hope there's better because that's what makes this program fun. So our next episode, this was part 2 of our 3-part series that we did. The first one was the top 10 teams. We anointed the 2018 Bison as the best team ever. The top game is the FCS semifinal in 2012. Next up, the all-time NDSU football team. That's going to be a long one, but we're ready for it. So until then, we'll sign off. For Ethan Eibach, I'm Grant Hubbard. This has been Bison Overtime. Thank you for watching, and go Bison.